Dean. That was beautiful. What a great way to start on kind of a cloudy Sunday morning. Welcome in. Welcome to the First Parish in Framingham. We are a welcoming congregation. So whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We welcome you here in the meeting house or on Zoom or wherever and whenever you may be watching this service in the future. I'm Jan Miller. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm your worship associate this morning. I serve on the Board of Assessors. Be sure to read the announcements in the order of service. Immediately following worship, you're invited to join us for coffee hour in Scott Hall, just across the courtyard. I note that this morning is the first morning of a 4-week experiment in family worship, which was held this morning at 10 o'clock. You're invited to attend that service as well or join us at 10:30 each week for the next 4 weeks as we try this new experiment. Please take a moment to turn your phones or other devices to their quietest settings. While beeps and buzzes can be distracting, we welcome your human noises, cooing, babbling, laughter, and all. We especially love the sound of your singing, so please join in. Since 1701, people have gathered as this community to rest or recharge, to be challenged or affirmed. Those people are like you. You belong here, maybe only for the next hour, but we hope for longer. We are happy to have you with us. I now invite you to take a deep breath in and out. Continue to take a few more breaths and to begin to release whatever you need to let go of to be more fully present to yourself, one another, and the sacred in this time and place. A flame within a chalice is a primary symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith tradition, to symbolize the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. It is our tradition to begin our worship by kindling the flame of our chalice. The words for our chalice lighting this morning were written by Sarah Lammert. We create a web of life. This is finally the time to let go of that crazy notion that we can live separate and aloof from one another. We create a web of life. This is the time at last that we can come home to each other, to our mutual belonging. We create a web of life, and we create a web of life out of which every single one of us can use everything our stories have given us. We create a web of life, every part of our lives, even the cruelty, even the abuse, even the addictions, even the loneliness, even the failures. We create a web of life. A web of life is created within which you can rest in that knowing, because out of that you can act. Out of that, all power is yours. Out of that, you travel light. Out of that, you can step forward. We create a web of life. Let every encounter be a homecoming as we step forward now for the healing of our world. The world is not going to be saved by good people or noble people. The world is going to be healed by ordinary people like you and me, who are not afraid of pain and who are not afraid of loving each other. Please rise in body or spirit to join in singing hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Please remain standing to sing our song of affirmation and remain standing for our spoken affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. It is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
You may be seated. This is the time in our service that we share the things which weigh deepest on our hearts, our milestones and our happy and sad occasions. We share them because joy shared is joy expanded, and sorrows shared can feel as though someone is lifting a burden. You can submit your joys and sorrows either online or by writing them down in this book that is normally at the back of our sanctuary. We sing from the hymn, Comfort Me, so that our joys and sorrows can be held with song, but also, so when times are tough, you might have a song on your hearts as well. I begin with these sorrows from our community. I share this from Walter Barker, who writes that his partner, Ellen Messing, passed away on Thursday. They had been together for 10 years. Share this from Dave Doucette. Writes, my friend's brother passed away suddenly. His service is Thursday. The brother was visiting from living in China for over 5 years. We share this concern from Karen Greenberger. Writes, always wishing for peace in the world. We also light a candle of sorrow for all those who were displaced in a fire last night at 1630 Worcester Road. Around 40 people were displaced. Let us now sing the first verse of Comfort Me. And we share these, these joys of our gathered community. Tom Greeley writes that on Monday, October 30th at 10 a.m., that is tomorrow, we will have an interment ceremony at Edgell Grove Cemetery for my mother, Patricia. Anyone who would like to attend is welcome. Karen shares this joy, grateful to be able to participate in this morning's service, which feels welcoming, including folks with good intentions for the world. And this joy from Diane, grateful for the gathering of family today, a joyful moment after a difficult week in the world. Let us now sing the next verse. Sing with me. Won't you sing with me? And we light one final candle for all of the joys and all of the sorrows too great to share. Let us sing one final verse, "Speak for me." I invite you to turn your attention back to that breath in and that breath out. To notice whatever is supporting you, whether it is a sturdy pew, a chair, or a bed, or the strength of this community. O Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, who calls us each by our true first name, which is beloved, we give thanks for this day, for the peace that we know, for the sheltering walls and roof, for the people sitting to our left and our right. We know it did not have to be this way, and so we give thanks. Soon we will celebrate Halloween, a holiday where people put on masks and try on different identities. May we give thanks for this chance to explore something new. We know too that there are those in our midst who mourn loved ones lost, who struggle and live with addiction, who dance with mental illness. May we be able to extend a listening ear and a helping hand. O Spirit of love, my heart breaks over continued violence in our world, war-torn places far away, civilians dead, anti-Semitism on the rise, and Islamophobia too. May we do what we can to bring peace to our part of the world, knowing that bending the arc of the universe towards justice doesn't happen on its own. It requires our work too. We mourn too this morning for 18 dead in Lewiston, Maine. Yet another mass shooting. When will we learn? When, oh when will we learn? Thoughts and prayers seem hollow. When will we learn? From time to time, we make mistakes. We are human after all. We say things that unintentionally hurt, or we don't speak up when we should have. But because we awoke this morning, there is still chance, still opportunity to try again. We are loved and lovable, not in spite of these imperfections, but because of them. May all that is holy hear these words. Let us sit in the quiet of this house so that we might listen or rest or simply do nothing for one whole minute. May it be so, and amen.
We have been richly blessed. We return a portion of our blessing to the ministries of this congregation so that we might be a witness to the free faith in Framingham and Metro West. If this is your first time joining us this morning, you're invited to let the offering pass you by. The morning offering will now be joyfully given and gratefully received.
We have two readings today, both from the poet and essayist Ross Gay. This first piece is called Sharing a Bag. I adore it when I see two people. Today it was, from the looks of it, a mother and a child here on Canal Street in Chinatown, sharing the burden of a shopping bag or sack of laundry by each gripping one of the handles. It at first seems to encourage a kind of staggering, as the uninitiated or the impatient will try to walk at his own pace, the bag twisting this way and that, whacking shins and skidding along the ground. But as we mostly do, feeling the sack, which has become a kind of tether between us, we modulate our pace, even our sway and saunter, the good and soul rhythms we might swear we live by, to the one on the other side of the sack. I suppose part of why I adore the sack sharing is because most often this is a burden one or the other could manage on their own, which makes it different from dragging Granny's armoire up 2 flights of stairs, say, or wrestling free a truck stuck hip deep in a snowbank. Yes, it's the lack of necessity of this act that's precisely why it delights me so much. Everything that needs doing, getting the groceries or laundry home, would get done just fine without this meager collaboration. But the only thing that needs doing without this meager collaboration would not.
And another selection from Ross Gay, this one, The Duff Between Us. In healthy forests, which we might imagine to exist mostly above ground and be wrong in our imagining, given as the bulk of the tree, the roots are reaching through the earth below, there exists a constant communication between those roots and mycelium, where often the ill or weak or stressed are supported by the strong and surplused. By which I mean a tree over there needs nitrogen and a nearby tree has extra, so the hyphae, so close to hyphen, the handshake of the punctuation world, these fungal ambulances ferry it over constantly. This tree to that to this. And that in a tablespoon of rich fungal duff, a delight, the phrase fungal duff, meaning a healthy forest soil swirling with the living, the dead make, are miles and miles of hyphae, handshakes, who get a little sugar for their work. The pronoun who turned the mushrooms into people. Yes, it did. Evolved the people into mushrooms. Because in trying to articulate what perhaps joy is, it has occurred to me that among other things, the trees and the mushrooms have shown me this. Joy is the mostly invisible, the underground union between us, you and me, which is, among other things, the great fact of our life and the lives of everyone and thing we love going away. If we sink a spoon into that fact, into the duff between us, we will find it teeming. It will look like all the books ever written. It will look like all the nerves in a body. We might call it sorrow, but we might call it a union, one that, once we notice it, once we bring it into the light, might become flower and food, might be joy.
I love those readings that we heard from both from Ross Gay. The book that they come from, A Book of Delights, and the follow-up to the Book of Delights, A Book of Even More Delights, are just phenomenal books. Jan, you were telling me before the service that at Barnes & Noble you've completely sold out. So call up and make sure they get that on order. One is about the small community that is created by two people carrying a bag together. The other about the beautiful community that exists beneath us, beneath our feet in the forest, in the rich fungal duff beneath our feet. And really, these readings are about belonging, about a connection between two people or two trees or fungi or what have you. These essayettes, they're all very quite short, we did not cut anything from them, are about the power of belonging. The belonging, yes, it's the lack of necessity of this act that's perhaps precisely why it delights me so much. Everything that needs doing, Ross Gay writes, getting the groceries or the laundry home will get done just fine without this meager collaboration. But the only thing that needs doing without this meager collaboration would not. Perhaps that is what belonging is, the meager collaboration, the thing that sort of bogs things down, but connection helps. Ross Gay also writes, joy is the mostly invisible, the underground union between us, you and me, which is among other things the great fact of our life and the lives of everyone and everything we know going away. That feeling, that joy, is what belonging feels like. This morning we are exploring the concept of belonging, which is a key part, I believe, to working to end the epidemic of loneliness. The U.S. Surgeon General's report states that belonging is a, quote, fundamental need. The feeling of deep connection with social groups, physical places, and individual and collective experiences. When it comes to belonging, belonging helps improve our social capital. That is, the resources to which individuals and groups have access through their social connections. The term social capital is often used as an umbrella term for both social support and social cohesion. The report on the epidemic of loneliness explains that belonging to a group is generally adaptive and improves survival. People have a natural tendency to build and maintain relationships with those who are most like themselves, like those with similar educational backgrounds, income, professions, or family status. This type of social connection is defined as bonding social capital. It is important and can provide the resources and support needed not only to prevent or reduce loneliness, but also to contribute to fulfillment and well-being. Research suggests that diversifying social relationships, they go on to say, to include connections with people who are outside of your social group, that's bridging social capital, as well as connections between people of differing power status in the community, that's linking social capital, are also associated with improved community health and well-being. Examples of these types of relationships include cultivating intergenerational friendships, bridging, or developing programs like a mentorship exchange between youth and local employers, linking. No matter what, in these moments of belonging, there needs to be respect, a certain underlying assumption about the worth and dignity of the other people in the group. So I wanted to tell you two stories of belonging, or perhaps one is a story of belonging, and the other is a story of a lack of it. So as you know, 2 weeks ago, I visited my first congregation in College Station, Texas. And we flew down on Friday. We were in the last row of the plane. I was in the middle seat and Lizzie on the aisle, and some other passenger was in the window seat. That window seat on the last row of a plane is objectively, I think, the worst seat on the plane. Probably would make any kind of saintly person cranky. I was trying to accommodate my seatmate's method of seating early on in the flight. I glanced down at his phone that was on his lap to see his response to a family member who texted him. I think the family member was on the plane. The family member texted, "Who is sitting next to you?" And his response was, "Some overweight guy." He was talking about me. He is continually sighing. Friends, I wanted to feel so small when I heard that, when I read that. Even though I've read all about fat liberation theology, I've read all about how a diet culture is a load of hogwash and hooey, and how all bodies are good and amazing bodies, it took that one comment that I wasn't even supposed to see to wreck my mood. It was amazing, though. I thought that I was inoculated against that kind of talk affecting me. He chose that one descriptor, and that was that. And friends, my weight and my breathing patterns are the least interesting thing about me. They're the least interesting thing about everyone here. Later, when it's time to move, because he has been sitting in that very cramped seat, we mention to each other how these seats are the absolute worst, and some other extremely generic, plain, small talk. We deplane and we go in our separate ways, thankfully, which I was very glad to do in that moment. Fast forward to Sunday morning. I wanted to go worship at my colleague Dan's church. Dan is a minister in the United Church of Christ and one of the best interfaith clergy colleagues I've had. And though our church's traditions and Christologies are different, they're probably more similar than totally different, to be honest. I know that I'll be moved by worship there. I was moved by worship there several times through my 3 years in College Station, and it just made sense to go. At one point, he says something like, "Aaron, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will. Just want to introduce my friend, Reverend Aaron. He served the UU Church here for a while. He's visiting from Massachusetts. This weekend, his First Church installed a new minister. Thanks for being here, buddy. A beautiful child of God." That phrase, a beautiful child of God, that might not be language that I use to describe myself frequently, but whatever. I can translate that. Child of the universe, child of the mystery, whatever. I knew that to Dan and the rest of the sermon that this was the great equalizer. And I felt like my soul and my heart were so big. They filled up that sanctuary. It made me feel like I could belong. Shared these 2 stories on Facebook earlier in the month, and I tagged Dan in a comment. And Dan wrote back, "Aaron, don't let anyone tell you you are anything less or anything more than a child of God." Last week, we heard about Naomi Shihab Nye's wonderful experience of community and belonging in an airport. My first story today is more the story of making judgments based on appearance and breathing patterns. That does not lead to further community being built, which maybe is okay. We don't expect to meet friends on the plane or have conversation, too much, at least. And to be fair, Dan is, and many other clergy out there are also skilled and gifted in building community and knowing the right thing to say. So what if there was a commitment to building community, to fostering a sense of belonging, whether bonding or bridging or linking social capital? More than a few of you came to the potluck dinner that we had last night. Thank you if you showed up, those of you who did. As you might know, this is one of the events that we planned way back in June as part of our work to end the epidemic of loneliness. Come back in November for our open mic night, shameless plug. You likely also know that there has been a long tradition around this time of the year of the youth group hosting some sort of haunted house. This year we reimagined it and they did a haunted woods experience, which, by the way, they did an awesome job at. But you might not know that we have another group forming here at First Parish, an emerging young adult group for folks 18 to 25-ish. That's emerging as in their age, not a comment on the state of the group, though I guess that too is emerging. What was powerful to me was that after the majority of the parts of the haunted woods were down, they sat and they ate dinner together. I cannot tell you how moving it was to see young adults gathering together. Now, I take no credit for raising them whatsoever. A lot of these kids, these young adults, came here before I did. In some cases, these are the people that this congregation helped raise. In other cases, they're the friends of those people that this congregation helped raise. I have no doubt that there are other groups that could emerge here at First Parish. I know that after I shared on Facebook that my quest to be a beginner at something frequently this year would take me to hand drum lessons, I learned that several of you also find drumming to be meaningful. So perhaps we could have a drum circle here at First Parish. I would hazard to guess as well that I can walk through the parking lot right now, and there would be enough Appalachian Mountain Club stickers on your cars that we could form a First Parish hiking group, just like that. And we could start immediately. How powerful could that be? After all, so many say that they find connected to the sense of mystery beyond all understanding in nature, rather than or in addition to this space. Maybe you say the words of affirmation, and then you go off on your hike. And then at the end, you share the joys and the sorrows of the hike, or as we used to say when we were hiking, the roses, buds, and thorns. I'm sure a kayaking group could form quickly as well. Kayak church, hiking church, sign me up. So that's another group right there. We could probably also form a group for people who are caregivers for close family. Riffing off mothers and others, which became parents and others, we could call it caregivers and others. I have seen firsthand the incredible love and devotion and sacrifice and burnout that caregivers experience when they're taking care of their dad or their mom or any other family member. Why not have a group to support you in this endeavor? Now, these are just 4 examples. I think the sky is the limit when it comes to forming new groups here at First Parish. What is necessary is commitment. A commitment, yes, to show up, but also a commitment to let our minds and our hearts be changed. We often say that I belong to a church, and by belonging to a beautiful and gritty community, we change. We also change the community, as does every new member who joins. Membership in a group or in a faith community is an organic and ongoing process. It might be worth imagining together, creating a theology of membership, which would need to answer questions on identity, on formation, on worship and rituals. What also would a theology of small groups look like? Why is any of this important? Why is this theological? Well, as the former president of our denomination used to say, this is no time to go at it alone. In Gwendolyn Brooks' poem, Paul Robeson, she wrote, "We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. We are responsible to one another." That is a theological statement. As one of my seminary professors, Brita Gill Ostern, once said, we are not individuals. We are embedduals. We are embedded in community. We do not exist alone. So, my friends gathered here, it is time to strengthen the things which connect us to one another. Joy is the mostly invisible, the underground union between us, between you and me, which is, among other things, the great fact of our lives, Ross Gay writes, the lives of everyone and everything we know going away. Because I think that connection would be found as Ross Gay found it. Joy is the mostly invisible, the underground union. Oh, we're going to say that again, aren't we? Which is, among other things, the great fact of our lives. Everything we know going away. We might call it sorrow, but we might call it a union. One that once we notice it, once we bring it into the light, might become flower and food, might become joy. May it be so, and amen. So let us rise in body or spirit to sing, 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Our heart is in a holy place, and we here are held by the light of love. Let us take that light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always, and the light hold us always. Amen, and go in peace.